Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our series of artist talks. My name is Olivia, and I'm the gallery coordinator here at the Pump House. And today I'm joined by Gabriela Marván, founder of the Mexican Folk Art Collective and artist. The Folk Art Collective display has been in our Cotter Gallery and will be here through November 4th, 2023. So thank you, Gaby, for joining me.
Thank you, Olivia, for
Yeah.
inviting me to make this meeting. And I'm happy to be here and happy that the collective for this opportunity from the Pump House and showcase our work.
Yeah, so why don't we start with you giving us a little history of yourself and your artistic history, as well as founding the collective.
Yeah, well, I'm a graphic designer by all my life has been in the visual arts, and I started to focus more on art and traditional art too in 2016. That's when I started making sculpture, and I was returning. I moved back. Well, in context, I am originally from Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico. Then I moved to the south in Playa del Carmen, where the Riviera Maya is. So there is even if it's the same country, I was feeling like missing that part of like culture and identity. So when I returned after 7 years to Cuernavaca, uh, I started to study folk art and visiting communities in my hometown in Cuernavaca and studying sculpture, studying cartoneria, that is the traditional paper mache art, and studying also different kind of folk art, just to know the process and not to be an expert, but to kind of like have that engaging to my roots, and it's when I found that kind of feeling of like seeing the studios of the families working, for example, pottery or the weavers, no, like doing those traditional for generations art. And in that moment, I felt that feeling, and I say to myself, more people needs to know this. More people needs to feel the same that I'm feeling. Like it's beautiful to see those families creating art since they are children. And then I started a collective in Mexico, but well, I got married here in with my husband. He's from Milwaukee, so I moved in 2019, and I continued doing cartoneria, and then COVID hit the world, and like contacting my friends, like all the artisans, like spaces were closed at that time, and we wanted to create a space to showcase our work and also to represent something in this area, because I was feeling a lack of representation of Latino art here. So I say I didn't find it, so I was like, okay, let's create something, and we create this collective. We were 10 artists starting. We were like, because of my connection with Mexico, some of the artists were living in Mexico, and some of the artists were living in the United States. So the purpose originally from the collective, it was to also to make a community of artists, for me to be in contact with more Mexican artists living in the United States. And then the time passes, and then we had one first exhibition last year in Rylander, and then well, now we are over 30 artists and different expressions, and some of them are completely traditional art, and some of us, like, our art is based on traditional art, sorry, on traditional art, but like with more contemporary view or contemporary touches, like the image we are seeing in the screen. That's an alebrije inspiration, and an alebrije is like a traditional art icon in cartoneria, in paper mache. So Julieta Zavala, who is the fashion designer, she designed this dress for her fashion show, and it's inspired on this figure.
Wonderful, yes. And we did have an artist reception with the Mexican Folk Art Collective where we had displays of other pieces of hers, and we do have links on our website of images and videos of those pieces. So anyone watching, feel free to head over to our website to see those amazing pieces that aren't in our current discussion today. So thank you for introducing the collective. We can move into some of the art pieces that we currently have on display in our gallery. So this is the first piece. Would you mind giving a little bit of information about the artist or process of creating these pieces?
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, first I'm gonna talk about the artist, Pedro Netzahualcoyotl. I met him in when I was studying folk art in Cuernavaca, but he is from Tlaxcala, Mexico. He is part of the fifth generation of weavers on his family, and he has about 13 looms on his studio. So all his family, like brother, father, and all his family does weaving, and they uses they call the colonial loom. That's kind of a huge loom, and with different pedals. I don't know exactly how many, but he did this piece of Katrina in a way of challenging himself, because the traditional sarapes are usually straight lines, patterns, like just like square or vertical lines. And he saw my work of like Katrina's. I usually do piece of Day of the Dead, and he told me, like, I'm gonna make one piece that matches with your work, and inspired on this figure that this is the classic representation of Katrina, and this figure was made by one artist who did woodcut, and he represented the Katrina in 1910s as a representation of like he was saying with his work in a satiric way, like, even if you have power or money or anything material in this life, we are gonna all end like skeletons. So that's the meaning that he did in the past. And nowadays we use the Katrina as representation as well, as the Day of the Dead. So this piece is very important, personally for me, because Pedro did it for exhibiting here in the United States, and to have a cohesive image with my work too.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear some of the stories and connections behind these pieces. So, and this piece is beautiful in person. It's very large, and so it's very fun to stand in front of it and see all of the details. Moving into another piece by him, this kind of explains what you were saying before, the more traditional straight striped lines.
Yeah, the marvelous of his pieces too is that he uses every natural elements, natural dyes. This piece is using indigo. That is one material that he uses on his pieces to give different tones of blues and greens depending on the process that he uses. But he does, since like going to harvest the plant, processing, like boiling, putting all the elements, natural and mineral elements, to make this color. And then he colored the thread, and then he hung them, and then he threaded. So it's like if you see one piece of him and you know the process is like, it's more admirable for me because you can see like the months of work, like since he's harvesting until we see the final piece.
Yes, definitely. And the colors are so vibrant too. So it's so wonderful to know that that's all done naturally and by hand. Very cool.
Yeah, and he also uses thread that are made by people of his town. So it's like it's marvelous how they keep the economy too, like local.
Hmm.
And they, like, there is someone who make the looms on his town.
Hmm.
There is someone who makes the thread, and he does the weaving. So it's the complete circle, and I'm amazed by that.
Yeah, supporting each other through their different art forms. Very cool. All right, well, this is a piece of clothing. Could you talk a little bit more about the history and culture behind this piece
Yeah,
that we see?
yeah. Rosalina Gutierrez is also friend of Pedro. Pedro introduced me Rosalina, and I was very excited to meet her. I don't know her in person, but I have talked with her a lot of times by phone or by texting. And I admire her work because she is also part of the 10th generation of her family doing embroidery. This traditional embroidery is called empepenado, and you can see that it's like they fold in tiny pieces the fabric, and over that they count and they do the embroidery. And Rosalina is part of the last indigenous community called Otomi on Tlaxcala. She lives in Ixtenco, Tlaxcala, and this is not only part of her family identity, it's part of her town and her indigenous community identity. So what she does besides her work, her beautiful work, she teaches in on her community to women, to empower them to be able to be productive and to sell their products or their embroidery. They also uses this embroidery as a part of their celebration. So she says in a phrase like, when you are purchasing one piece of her, you're purchasing not only the art, you're purchasing part of her identity. So I feel very, very touched by that. And I'm very proud that she's part of this collective, having a representation of this community, indigenous community in Tlaxcala.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's so amazing to hear all of these different stories of these different people and all being represented through this one exhibition. It's very powerful. And as you can see, as we move into our other pieces, we have a variety of mediums throughout this exhibition. Could you begin discussing some of the paper mache that you mentioned earlier through this piece?
Yeah, this is also, well, my technique, and I identify a lot with this artist because I do paper mache or cartoneria. We call cartoneria in Mexico that the technique is like, could be modeling with newspaper, or it could be with wire structure, and then we give like layers of paper to the figure, and at the end we paint with acrylics, and with some, nowadays we can mix media. but the traditional cartoneria is only with paper and glue. And this figure is it's a sculpture, but also representing one of the traditional dances in my hometown. Alfonso Morales is also from where I come from, different town, but same state. And one of the traditional dances is the one that this sculpture is representing. So every year in some towns where I come from, they do this dance that it's called Tecuanes dance as the title. And the purpose of this is that is in some towns they do it like calling the rain to the harvest to the fields. And in other towns the tradition is because like it's based on a legend that says that like long time ago the one jaguar came to the town and ate the fields, so the people from the town were like looking for the jaguar to hunt him, and so the jaguar is the main representation of this dance. And he has like a lattice because in the dance when they are dancing there are like some people with hats with sombrero dancing around him, and the jaguar that usually is a mask of paper mache or wood, and he lattice the floor near of the people if they are not dancing well. So it's like to encourage him to dance better. But it's a celebration, and it's like party of the town, and people dresses one people dresses like the jaguar, and the rest of the people just dresses with sombrero and colorful ribbons and dancing around the jaguar.
Is this dance done at a certain time of year or multiple times a year in your hometown? Is
Um,
it still occurring?
yeah, there are some dances on September, but depending on the town, like it's different dates.
Okay,
This dance is from Guerrero, from Morelos. So Guerrero is another state, but we share some similitudes in traditions.
wonderful. All right, what a fun story. Okay, this is our next piece, printmaking. Could you discuss a little about this piece as well?
Mhm. Gaby Santos, or Gabriela Santos, she is from California, Porterville, California. That was funny how I met her because I met her in Mexico in one trip to Mexico in 2021. We were about 40 artists selected living in the United States, but originally from Mexico. So selected by the consulates. Uh, they took us to Mexico City, and that's where I met Gaby and other artists. We had the chance to know the work of each other, and this was great. This was great for the collective because I could make more connections and to see who would be interested to be part of it. And Gaby was great, a great addition. She's a great addition for the collection. She does, this is an etching, but she also does like wood cut and all the good prints that uh, she has developing. She's a visual artist. She studied in the National University in Mexico. When I told Gaby the topic of the exhibition, that it was going to be kind of a very open window to represent where we come from, or what's in our memories or in our very deep feelings of our childhood or our original place where we come from. She did this etching representing her grandma. She says her grandma used to do embroidery. So she kind of like go outside the box of with this piece, because she usually just do the etching or the lino cut or wood cut. That is great. Her work is great. But she added the embroidery piece. So she represented with this work to her grandma, and you can see some flowers around it. The flowers, the first flowers that are over the hands, representing different flowers of her town, and then the line that is on the top, uh, she has a Oaxacan heritage. So those are the Mixteco, that it's also an indigenous community from Oaxaca, and she feels very attached to this because it's where her great grandparents and grandparents come from, Oaxaca. So she always tried to put some symbolism of this indigenous community. So those are the representation exactly, like you can see the embroidery of um, that region in Oaxaca, the Mixteco region. You can see this kind of flower representation.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. All right, we're moving into some ceramic pieces.
Yeah, Flor Mina, I feel very excited that she's part of the collective. She is my sculpture teacher, so I met her since 2016. I taught some classes. I took some classes with her. Her work usually is big, monumental. So to bring some sculpture from her was difficult because we were like, oh, Flor, can you have one smaller? And she had this piece that I feel that represents a lot of what she is. She represents a lot of the woman or the feminine side, but in a strong and resilient figure. She also uses like the ocean and river symbols because she was born and raised in a community in Guerrero, near of the river. So all her work is mixing fantasy and reality and a lot of elements from the ocean and river. Also, it has elements from the African Mexican, with the all. I mean, she is herself African Mexican, and she represents this also in her pieces. So she feels very proud of what she is, and we feel very proud that she is part of the collective too.
Wonderful. And she has other pieces in our exhibition as well. I will say what we're discussing today is not everything, so definitely make sure to stop by and see the other works by some of the artists that we're discussing today. All right, moving into a slightly different style. Could you introduce this family?
Yeah, this family, it's Familia Peguero Garcia, and this family is from Oaxaca. And Oaxaca is a multicultural, diverse, and full of art city and towns. And where Familia Peguero is, well, her studio and her gallery is called Tierra Sagrada. That is translated as sacred land. And they live very near of Monte Alban. Those are the pyramids in Oaxaca, near of Oaxaca city. And they live in Atzompa, Oaxaca. That is a town known by like almost all the people there does pottery. So if you go to that town, you can see this kind of pottery. Well, Familia Peguero Garcia has also generations doing pottery. I met Fernando, that is the 5th generation of his family doing pottery. He's now doing more experimental and contemporary barro or clay. We call barro clay. But this piece was made by, specifically, this piece was made by his mother, that represents just a seller that it's like what they see every day in the market, like those women who carries flowers selling through the hallways, flowers. So she represented these figures, and the hairstyle that they use also is representing how the woman in Oaxaca traditionally they use their hair. This part that she has in here, it's a rebozo, where they carry their, like a backpack, but it's just like a scarf or something that they cross and they tie to their hips and their chest. And the colors that they use are all natural. So there are two different kind of clays that they get from the soil. So they get the soil and the processes and the colors that each barro or each clay gives. It's this. So they don't add another mineral, like another artificial color. This is natural colors that the same soil is given to them. And as well, it's the process that they took, since they take the soil from the soil until they process. They have to wait to let it dry, and then they have to make it in powder, and then they have to prepare for the figure, and all the process that takes to do a pottery figure takes about, like, sometimes months to do it. And I really love this piece, and it's like you can see the love that they give to their pieces.
Yes, there's so much detail in the specific pieces from this family. I had to include a close-up photo because it's just marvelous.
Thank you.
All right, moving into some more of the artwork that we discussed before.
Yeah, Leonardo Linares, with this alebrije. Well, I'm gonna explain what is an alebrije. An alebrije is a figure formed by two or more different animals, and started. Now it's an icon from the Mexican folk art, especially in paper mache or cartonería. And Leonardo Linares is the grandson of the creator of the alebrijes. So the first time the alebrijes were done as like colorful patterns and this mixture of animals were about in 1930s, with Leonardo Linares' grandfather, Pedro Linares. And this was the result of a dream, because he was with fever and sick, and he had nightmares, and then he dreamed with these alebrijes, and as well with the name. So he was, Leonardo told me, and this is in books too. So you can see that Pedro was dreaming with these figures, and they were calling their name alebrije, and that's how he started to represent them. He was a paper mache artist in the 1920s, 1930s. So he created this, and since then, the paper mache artist create these figures, and each artist give their own style. And this figure is very, I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky to have this piece, because Leonardo, I mean, is the grandson of Pedro, and he is the same family that is still doing paper mache art. So they are recognized as the masters of paper mache in Mexico. There is a big community of paper mache artists in Mexico. Just to tell you, like, there are like national conference of paper mache artists every year in Mexico City or in Cuernavaca, where I'm from. There are, or Guanajuato, there are the three biggest cities or towns where the paper mache is traditionally. And Linares is a family like the masters of paper mache. I was excited. I was very excited when I met him, and when I had the opportunity to go to his studio and see how he worked.
Definitely. All right, this is some other paper mache by yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love to do the Dia de Muertos piece. And lately I have been like doing more like this piece, more like scenarios and skeletons doing something and dancing or living like a everyday life. Fandango is in a specific word that it means, well, it's representative from Veracruz, the state from Veracruz, and it's a party. Mainly, it's a party where there are a couple dancing, and then around them there is the party happening, like music and light music, and people like celebrating, like drinking or eating, or just like watching them to dance and like making like with the palms like noise. And so this is a representation honoring also Jose Guadalupe Posada, the same artist who created the Catrina, the one that we saw with Pedro Netzahualcoyotl. Uh, Posada also did an etching with Fandango piece, so I was inspired by his piece and I created this in 3D, and I also represent like make like some adjustments to the expression to each of the skeletons, and the tortilla maker that is doing it. I was inspired by one kitchen like mosaic in Oaxaca. So we went into Oaxaca and I saw the tiles that it had it, and I love it, and just I put it in this piece. And the guys on the back that are drinking pulque. Pulque is similar than tequila, but it's more like a handmade in the towns beverage, alcoholic beverage. So in my grandpa's town, that he was from Guerrero, Mexico, they used to do as well pulque. So this is kind of like also a mixture of what I have seen and during my life.
Wonderful.
And yeah, they represent just that, like how we remember our people that have passed away. Like we remember them through these happy days they gave to us. So the skeletons, that's why they are doing things and they look like they are celebrating.
Hmm. And is this the same kind of process that you had mentioned before with the other pieces of using wire and then layers of paper over the top?
Yeah, they mainly the skeletons are done by wire. So we need like first of all you need to take of the position, the final position they're gonna have, because that's how you do your wire. And over there you do the wrapping or the modeling of the newspaper. The heads I first do clay, so I model on clay or pottery, and then I put wraps with layers of paper, and then I cut like to open the mold and take it off and then cover it and cover it again. So this piece took about I don't know, like, because I have full-time job, so maybe it took me about 3 months. I don't remember how much I spent on it.
Yeah, it's very impressive the amount of near skeleton pieces that we have in the gallery. I can't imagine how much time they make, and the detail too. If you look at these in person, like the tortilla maker, the design on the little stovetop that she's cooking on and everything. It's just so wonderful, the details that you put into these.
Thank you.
All right. What would you like to say about Judas? He is currently in our gallery and he is quite tall and definitely a focus of the exhibition. Would you like to give a little bit of the history surrounding the Judases?
Yeah, Judas, I was excited that it fit on the gallery. We were like, oh, maybe it won't fit, but luckily it fit in there and he's there. I'm very happy. Well, the traditional Judas are part of also the Mexican celebration in Easter. So what we do with the Judas is, well, this celebration started since like the colonial times. So the meaning of it started as a religious meaning. So it was because Judas Iscariot in the Catholic Church as the betrayal, no? But now it's part of the festivities of the town, so it goes beyond that. And what we do is to put fireworks around the body, and then these Judas are hung, um, and then the people just go around in a safety area, and then somebody turns the fireworks and starts to spin it and explode it, and then the celebration starts. And when those burning Judas, if you Google burning Judas, you'll find and you'll find this specific celebration. Um, they are usually as well from Mexico City or Morelos or Guanajuato, or also other part of Mexico, but I have experience in the center of Mexico. And well, the meaning is that you are burning those bad things that during the year were in the community, and you want like to remove them, and you're welcoming the good things. I cannot do this here because the the firemen will be like coming, but I represent this through the like decorated things, so it's like representing the duality as we as humans have, like we are not totally good or bad, like, so we have like our good moments, our bad moments, and there are some also smaller Judas that are now in the gallery, and it has a like installation of color and art, and each of them has a representation and um, their own personality, I would say, or their own like profession, I would say, representing one person. Like we are all different and we have different backgrounds and different um yeah, like way to be, and we all have good and bad things, and it's just we are humans and we are here to learn how to be together and just celebrating life.
Yeah, for the celebration with the fireworks, are they usually as big as this Judas, or do they vary in sizes for the celebration?
They are usually like this big or bigger.
Okay.
They are usually in one piece. I made this in 3 pieces because of the transportation, but they are usually in one piece and they are hung from from the ceiling, and when this burning celebration is, they usually is not just one Judas, so it's like a collective work. So different artists put their Judas and they burn one by one, and they say, for example, like, let's burn this Judas of the corruption, and then they burn it, and they they celebrate that they are removing that from their town. And the smaller they also do, the artists also do smaller, and those are for kids mainly.
Okay.
So the kids do in their houses, like with tiny fireworks, and they just hang it from a tree or something, and they just blow them. And yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing. I'll definitely have to look up videos of this. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
All right. Here's some other pieces by you and your partner in that style you were discussing before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year we were like thinking like, okay, let's do some alebrijes. So Ryan, my husband, also is a muralist. So he has also the color, like the color theory in his work, and we have fun doing this because it's like, since we are modeling and kind of like, oh, I think it needs like a big tongue, or like each of us gives like, oh no, I think it needs like a butterfly wings or something like that. And then when we are painting, we took this like a kind of a doodling exercise, because one of us like does one colorful pattern, and then I pass to Ryan, and then he does the other part. So that's how these figures were done, kind of a, a game in a or a playful way to create between two artists. And I found it very lucky to have him as a husband too, and we can just do this in our free time. And my brother-in-law said like, what do you do in your free time besides working? I said, well, this is not working, and I'm like, this is art, this is something that I will do anyway in my free time. And I found this is a way to mix our styles.
Mhm.
And yeah, this is an alebrije too, and it's a mixture between more than two animals in this case.
Yes, and the patterns that you paint have such detail and the colors are so vibrant. How long does it, depending on the size, how long does it usually take for the both of you to finish a piece like this with the painting specifically?
Well, this year specifically took us a lot of time doing this. We started doing it since January, I think. All the figures that you see in the gallery. But because also we were like trying to combine our two styles to make them look like one too. And also because we were like, ah, no, that doesn't, and we were painting it again, and like, okay, let's start over. So this year it was more like learning to create together too. So these pieces represent both of us, and that's why it took more time. But usually, like, I don't know, like one piece like this, like so detailed, takes like months working, like at least 3 months of work.
Yeah, they're quite stunning with all the details. All right. Would you like to discuss this piece a little bit and the event that happens with what we're seeing represented in the piece?
Yeah, this piece is called Torito, and it's from Raciel Sanchez Pacheco. He's also a cartonero. He has been like specializing in figures with paper, but also giving them a movement. So you can see like a little bit of rope on the box. So when you pull it, the man goes like spin, like in circle. And this is representing one as well, one of the festivities from Morelos. Morelos is the name of the state where he's from. And it's the same state where I'm from. I also met him in Mexico. And he was the one who taught me how to make the reed structure for make the big figures. And this figure was part of a bigger sculpture that was awarded by nationally paper mache award. We couldn't bring the complete like all the figures because it's a challenge, the shipping and bringing all the pieces, but we could bring this part of his piece. And it was funny, the story, because with the transportation the box broke and I had to figure it out how to fix it, and I was calling Raciel to teach me how to do the mechanism inside again to make it like spin. So it has a challenge, and I learned. I'm thankful because I learned how to do this. I like, oh, I can do this too. But yeah, the things on the floor are fireworks. So this figure, it's like that. Like one person put like a paper mache torito, that means bull, little bull, and then they put it on the shoulders, and over the torito it has a castle that is full of fireworks. So those fireworks are just like like everywhere, and this person is following the people from around, so people is like running. If I tell this here, it's like people finds it funny, and it is. um, but this is part also for like any celebration, any town celebrations, they do this torito. And at the top he put a Mexican flag, because usually it has the Mexican flag or the flag of the neighborhood or the county or things like that. These toritos are sometimes handled by like even kids. They find this funny and this fun, and they are made in a way that doesn't the fireworks doesn't come to the people, like they go like
Outright.
outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are done by like master fireworks people. It's not like something that any people can do it. Um, and then they just go chasing people, and then the party starts.
It sounds so fun. All right. I believe this is the last piece we're discussing today, another textile piece.
Mhm. Yeah, Nadia Figueroa is a fashion designer from Mexico City. Uh, um, she's also a friend of mine since like a lot of years ago, and she started to make research about the recipes that our ancestors, like specifically the Aztecs and Mayans, were doing, and she found like recipes of natural dyes with another group of people, and she did this piece um, honoring her dad, who died when COVID was in the world. So she said she needed like, we lost that contact, human contact. So with that rebozo, she feels like she's like giving a hug to him, that he is not here anymore. So she found a way to heal with her own art. Well, talking about the process, this is natural dye. Like the red part is done with grana cochinilla, that is a little bug from the cactus. And they, like people who harvest or who raise this little bug, has to take care that stays there and healthy, and then they took it, and then like a little bunch of grana um, takes to do like the tint or the dye for these pieces that the weavers or the now the fashion designers are taking some of this learning in Mexico, and I think that's great because it's also part of the like our ancestors' knowledge. And Nadia took this and yeah did this piece with it, and I found this piece very great. Like the results of the color, the red color it's amazing, and it's all with natural dyes.
Yeah, it's wonderful and beautiful to hear the personal stories behind these pieces, along with the process and hearing about the natural dyes and the communities and people behind them, as well as the celebrations behind them. So I really appreciate you joining me today to discuss a few of the works currently in the gallery. I will mention again, this is only a small portion of what we currently have on display. So I highly recommend making it down to the Pump House to see more of these works. Gabby, is there anything you would like to add or mention to anyone viewing the exhibition in person?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to to you and to Allison and to all the staff of the Pump House. Um, I think the help you have given to us it's huge, and we are lucky that our pieces are showcasing and that we could have that performance show. And also with the transportation of the pieces, that is tricky when it's like huge pieces like the Judas, and transporting pieces from over 30 artists is it's a challenging, but we found a way, and I'm happy that people in La Crosse can see our work, and just feel free to follow us. Also, we have an Instagram, Folk Art Collective, and you can know more about us. And yeah, thank you. Just thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing all of your work with us and being able to share the stories of artists that weren't able to be here in person. So thank you so much, Gabby.
Yes, yes.